Stuart, we're here to talk about Project Brave. Tell us about it and where the idea originated from.
Yeah, of course. Project Brave is in essence a refresh of the Scottish FA's performance strategy. So back in 2011, when the performance strategy was initiated, there were a series of focus areas, and all of those initiatives were put in place and led by the performance department. 5 years on, we're actually refreshing that strategy, and we're reviewing what's worked, where things need to change. We've had a working group running since about March last year, and the working group has actually made a series of recommendations so that Scotland can actually perform much better on the international stage.
Who's been involved in the working group with regards to putting this together?
Yeah, well, clearly the players are the club's players. They're not the Scottish FA's players. We can't dictate or demand that players work or behave in a certain way. The players are the club's players. So we've embraced a number of our leading clubs, and we've had chairmen, directors of football and heads of youth involved from some of Scotland's leading clubs, as well as representation from the smaller clubs in the academy system as well.
At the tail end of last year, you appointed Malcolm Mackay as your performance director. What's his involvement in this project? Have you spoken to him much about it? What's his thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Malky was interviewed for the role of performance director along with a number of other candidates, and part of the recruitment process consisted of a critique of Project Brave. All the candidates had to review it and provide feedback to the interview panel as to what they liked about it and where they would look to perhaps make amendments. So Malky is fully au fait with Project Brave. He's very much behind it and supportive of the direction that the Scottish FA wish to go. And Malky's role will be to lead the implementation of Project Brave.
There's been a lot of reports about Project Brave already. Can you clarify the misconception that only 8 teams will be involved?
Well, the 8 is a misnomer, so there is no initial set of 8 and a second set of 8. There will simply be the successful clubs that qualify through the bid document and become Scotland's elite academies. Now, currently we have 29 centrally funded academies in Scotland, and that's for a population of 5.5 million people. And around 2,500 elite players in the system. When you look at, for example, Germany, and we have done in some detail in terms of what they call Das Reboot, when they actually got together with the DFB got together with the Bundesliga to restructure their performance strategy, they ended up with 54 academies for a country of 88 million people. So they've focused on the very best. And we know we need to focus on the very best players and the very best academies with the limited resources that we have. So the recommendation from the working group was to have no more than 16 academies in Scotland that would be defined as elite. And when the group decided how would those academies be structured when it comes to playing games programmes, so under 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s playing against each other, they decided that it would be much more efficient and effective to have 2 tiers of 8 teams. Every club that wishes can put a bid in, and every club will be independently audited and verified against that bid document and against a defined set of criteria. And if they are successful, clearly they will be included in Scotland's list of elite academies.
I understand that you started speaking to a third party about helping you with the auditing and the verification of Club Academy Scotland. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, well, we want to make sure that we get the very best support to help us manage the migration or the transition to our new academy system. So we have looked across Europe at the very best organisations that help national associations manage their academy system. And we've identified an organisation from Europe who work with a number of key countries, including the FA in England, including Belgium, and 1 or 2 others in Scandinavia. And they will be looking to come on board sometime in 2017 to start the auditing process to establish whether club academies meet the criteria that we're going to set out in the bid document. And they will be engaged to manage that process into next year. and we'll be continually reviewing academies to make sure they are at the standard that we need them to be at to be continually part of the Club Academy programme. One important point to mention is the funding that the Scottish FA will be putting into this project. At the moment we spend over £2 million on our academies, and it would be our intention, with the board's approval, that the entire funding programme would be put towards a small number of academies. So we would look to have more funding per academy and more money focused on fewer players. There are currently around 2,500 players in the system. We're looking for that to come down to probably around half of that number, and that means that there'll be greater resource per player focused through the academy system by the Scottish FA. Those clubs that perhaps don't make the grade and don't achieve the success criteria, we're not looking to remove money from those academies. They won't be audited, they won't be verified, they won't have to achieve deliver the standards that perhaps the other academies will have to do, but they will be allowed to carry on running their academies, and we'll be asking them to do additional programmes linked to some of the other objectives that the Scottish FA have to achieve. So there'll still be a funding programme for those academies, and it's not as if we'll be withdrawing that funding.
And have you got a specific date in mind about when you're wanting to roll all this out?
It's due to start from season 2017-2018. Clearly there are lots of different recommendations. Some of them will be able to be implemented sooner than others, but the key focus area, which is review of the academy structure and the centrally funded academies, that will go live from the beginning of season 2017-18.